All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review. Hope you're having a great week. Today we're continuing our BCBA exam practice question series, where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out behavioranalyststudy.com. As always, when you pass, please let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. As always, work hard, study hard. Let's get to our questions. Question 1. A client with autism is sitting with the behavior analyst and their parents as the treatment plan is reviewed. The behavior analyst says they want to incorporate more discrete trial into the plan. The client says, I hate DT time. Can we do something else? How should the behavior analyst respond? There's a couple different things going on in this question. The primary thing you want to think about is the inclusion of clients in our decision making. And as always, our number one rule is do no harm, but then we want to maintain client dignity at every point. And clients have a right to a say in their treatment plan. Now, does that mean that clients get to choose everything about their plan? Not necessarily. We still need to give guidance and formulate the best plan possible, but we have to acquiesce to their decisions at times. In this case, we want to use more DTT. The client says, I hate DTT. Can we do something else? So as the behavior analyst, how do you respond? And keep in mind, there's no age, there's no skill. It doesn't matter here, right? We're just looking in the context of this question. So A, explain that they know best and the DTT is the best intervention to use. The behavior analyst should not take a stance as I'm the expert, you're just the client. It's the wrong way to go about it. It's not really dignifying towards the client. B, let the parent have the final say on the matter. The parent, being another stakeholder, of course, gets opinion as well, but ultimately, the client is really the one who is going to make or help make the final decision, right? The parent has a say, but never are they going to have the final say in this situation. C, attempt to find a different strategy to use in the treatment plan. Yes, at best, you can attempt something else. If it continues to not work, then you can say, well, we've tried your way. Now let's try my way. This is the best course of action. The best example I can give is an extinction procedure, which can be very challenging for parents. If parents say, well, I don't think I'll be able to do this, we don't just say, well, you have to do it. We try something else. If it still doesn't work, then we say, okay, let me try it this way. Let's see. If we can't fully commit to a treatment plan, it's not going to be nearly as effective. D, it depends on the client's age and ability level. I mean, it really doesn't, right? If the client can say, well, I don't like DTT time, that's enough to say, maybe you should adjust and try something, at least at first, differently. And then you can reconvene and maybe go a different route. But we have to maintain client dignity. The client is always involved in their treatment, and we have to respect their opinion. So given the information available, how should behavior analysts respond? C, attempt to find a different strategy to use in the treatment plan. A long-standing client's mom loses her job and is forced to go on unemployment. Subsequently, she loses insurance coverage for ABA services. She guarantees the company that she will regain her insurance in less than a month. Does the ABA company need to continue providing services? What is exactly happening in this question? This client's mom, who lost her job, unemployment, no more insurance, ABA services essentially are no longer funded. And that's a problem for a business and a business owner. She says, I will regain my insurance in less than a month. Now, is the ABA company obligated to continue providing services? A, yes, we never abandon clients. A is true. We never abandon clients. But in the context of this question, A is not necessarily relevant. You're not abandoning the client. There are stipulations in the ethical code that says if funding isn't available, you just don't have an obligation to it. And as difficult as that is, it's just the truth, right? So A is true, but not in the context of what the question is asking. So be careful. B, yes, ability to pay should not punish a client. In a perfect world, very true. But it's not how things are, right? In the newest ethical code update, there's a lot more language geared directly towards businesses because ABA is becoming a lot more businessized. It's getting bigger, and we have to understand the reality of our situation. So, no, it shouldn't punish the client. Unfortunately, that just is the case sometimes. C, no, services may be terminated. Yes. If funding is gone and funding is no longer available, you are under no obligation as the ABA provider to give services for free. You just aren't. Can you choose to do that? 100%, right? That is your choice, but you're not obligated. D, no, a company can terminate services for any reason at any time. We know that's not true. Our ethical code lists 7, I believe, reasons why you might have to terminate services. We don't just have the choice, though, at any given point to terminate for any reason. That is abandoning clients, which we don't do. So to answer the question, does the ABA company need to continue providing services? While A is true, we do not abandon clients. Relevant to the question, C is much better, right? No. Services may be terminated, right? The ABA company does not need to continue providing services. A behavior analyst wants to conduct a research study using 3 of her clients from her private practice job. She designs the study and has 2 of her behavior technicians implement the study. What does the behavior analyst need to be sure of before publishing the study? It's always this tricky. The research portions of our task list in our ethical code, because most BCBAs and behavior analysts don't go through this process, but the exam expects you to know all of it. In this case, we want to conduct a research study. We're going to have 3 clients from her job. We're also going to use 2 behavior technicians. What does the analyst need to be sure of before she can publish that study? A, the client's parents provided consent. Absolutely. Any research study, any experiment, consent needs to be obtained. B, the clients provided assent. Now, what is assent? Assent is essentially when you can't provide consent, okay? And that's an important distinction. So typically, people under 18 or who don't have the capacity to consent, they can give assent. Just as important, right? The clients agree to participate in the study. They have that right. C, she gives credit to the technicians. You have to give credit where credit is due. If they helped you with the study, you need to credit them in some way. It wasn't like you did the study, you designed it, and you implemented it and everything else. They helped, you need to give credit. So before you can publish a study, you need consent, you need assent, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Our answer is going to be D, all the above. Again, know the difference between consent and assent. It's important, okay? There is a distinction. You conduct a functional analysis for aggression-based behavior. You run 3 conditions: contingent attention, contingent escape, and a control condition. The percentages of occurrence for each condition were 2%, 5%, and 4%, respectively. What conclusion can you draw from this data? All right, kind of a tricky question to visualize, right? Because usually this would be graphed. A lot easier to see on the graph, but let's visualize it and think about this. We have 3 conditions. In the contingent attention condition, it happened 2% of the time. Escape, 5%. Control, 4%. Is there any definitive data showing us one condition beats another? Well, not necessarily, because if you were to graph this, there's no true, real separation where you can definitively say escape is going to be my best bet here, because they're so close together that you just can't make that assumption, okay? So what conclusion can we draw from this data? A, the behavior is attention-based. Well, it'd probably be the last one we would choose, right? Because the percentages of occurrences were so low in that condition. What about the behavior is escape-based? Although it's highest, it's only 1% higher than 4%. And if we were to graph this, those data points could easily overlap, right? So there's no real separation going on. C, the behavior does not have an automatic function. Well, you can't draw that conclusion because if overlap occurs, or if the behavior happens in the alone condition, there's always a chance there is an automatic function. So D, the function of behavior, is unclear. There might be overlap. There's no real separation. It could certainly be automatic. It could be dual function. We're just not sure given our data. So what conclusion can you draw? Well, D, the function of the behavior is unclear. You, a behavior analyst, are determining the length of intervals to use for your partial interval recording procedure. What is an important determining factor in making your decision as it relates to the data? Question is much easier than how it sounds. So let's think about our question here, right? We do all our work up front. You are determining the length of intervals to use for partial interval recording procedure. Essentially, how long is each interval going to be? And when deciding that, what is an important factor in making that decision as it relates to data in partial interval recording? That's what you're asking yourself. A, the intervals do not matter towards data as long as you are consistent. Is this true? When we're doing discontinuous measurement, are the intervals irrelevant? Of course not, right? The length of intervals have a huge impact on data. If you're using a whole interval procedure, a 1 minute interval combined or compared to a 10-minute interval, drastically different. So A is out. B, the shorter the interval, the more sensitive the data. Yes, think about it. If I'm using a 15-second interval and I do 10 of those, the data is much more sensitive for partial interval, right? Because the data has to occur at some point. If I use a 15-second interval, that data has to occur within 15 seconds. If my interval is 5 minutes, there's a lot more opportunities for one data point. So the shorter the interval, the more sensitive the data. C is just the opposite. The longer the interval, the more sensitive the data. Both can't be true. C is out. And then D, partial intervals should never be longer than 1 minute in length. That's just not true. So what is an important determining factor when you're choosing interval length? Well, the shorter the interval, the more sensitive the data. After opening your own applied behavior analysis clinic, you decide you will charge a flat fee for an intake assessment. You then start to think about your other fees. What is something you must remember about the fees you charge? All right, a lot of ethical, administrative kind of things today, okay? Got to know it, right? So it's not as fun as the other stuff, but you have to know it. In this case, fees. What is the rule? What does the code say about fees? A, the fees need to be covered by insurance. No, not necessarily. Insurance is a great way to get more families access, but nowhere does it say you have to take insurance or fees have to be covered. B, the fees must be reasonable and fair. Again, that's up to you. You should ethically make it reasonable and fair, but really what the code says is the fees must be transparent. Okay, so you can leave it up to the client to decide if the fee is reasonable and fair, but you have to make them transparent. You can't hide anything, right? So you can't tell them one price and then later on tack on a bunch of extra stuff. Fees have to be transparent. So what is something you must remember about the fees you charge? C, the fees must be transparent. A new form of workplace management training has gone viral, and the local ABA agency wants to incorporate it into their technician trainings. The core component of the new training revolves around manifestation and positive vibes. What does the agency need to make sure of before implementing this training? Training question. Think about what the code says about how we train. And I always describe personnel management and training as you treat it like you're working with a client. Everything is based in behavior analysis. We're using principles of reinforcement. Same idea. Okay. So if you're going to use this training about manifestation and positive vibes, what do we need to be sure of? A, the agency needs to take continuing education on the training first. Not necessarily, as long as you're competent in it, you can deliver it. B, the agency needs to ensure they root the training in behavior analysis. Yes, if you're going to do this type of training, you got to make it behavior analytic in nature. Okay. Everything we do must be behavior analytic. C, the agency needs to ensure that all technicians are committed to the program. You can't ever ensure that, right? I mean, you can hire people and have no commitment. It's not going to stop you from training. D, the agency needs to ensure that the BACB gives written approval of the training. No, they don't. You don't have to go through those hoops, but you do need to ground this training intervention in the science of behavior analysis. So what does the agency need to make sure of? Well, you have to be sure you're teaching using behavior analytic concepts and principles. A group project is part of your final grade in your fall class. You're working with 3 other people to write a paper and create a presentation for which you will all share a grade. Each person is given a separate section to work on. What type of group contingency does this represent? All right, think about group contingencies: dependent, independent, and interdependent. Dependent says what? Dependent says the whole group is relying on one person or a couple people to meet the target behavior, so they all get reinforcement. Independent says everybody's on their own, right? You do the target behavior, you get reinforcement. Interdependent says everyone has to do target behavior. In this case, you have a group project, 3 other people. Each person is given a separate section to work on, and you share a grade. Meaning, if you want to get reinforcement, if you want to earn the high grade, everybody has to do their part. So is that dependent, independent, or interdependent? Well, it's going to be interdependent. Hero is just another way to say dependent. So what type of group of contingency does this represent? Well, interdependent, because you're all reliant on each other to meet the target behavior criterion. Thank you for watching ABA Exam Review. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our practice materials. As always, work hard, study hard, let us know when you pass. See you soon.